In today's Leeds news, Gladbach still want Wober, West Ham circling Summerville, Gabriel Sara interest, Gray picks up substantial injury, Leeds keen on Ukrainian Wonder Kid, Torunarigha links still around, Ballo-Toure rejects Besiktas for Leeds, and Hull interested in Darlo. Morning folks, Jay here on Tuesday morning the 30th of July with your Leeds United news. Hope you're having a good week so far, getting closer and closer to the start of the championship season. We've got the Valencia game coming up on Saturday. Myself and Andrew Stats Dalton will do a preview to that game on Friday night, and we've the podcast going out on Thursday night as well for those interested in that. But there's a little bit of stuff floating around, mostly rumour territory right now, and I'll clarify that when we get to it, but some incomings and potential exits as well. But we'll start off with some unsurprising news today, which broke around the potential future of Max Wober at Leeds United. Borussia Mönchengladbach's sporting director Roland Virkes has been speaking with German outlet Rheinische Post about Max Wober and their summer transfer plans, and during this he made a statement where he said that their current plans around Max Wober are just on hold. Daniel Farke has spoken recently about reintegrating Max Wober into the Leeds United squad and having him as part of the team for next season as part of our plans moving forward. Wober has played 2 pre-season friendlies so far and is expected to be in the squad for the Valencia game and be part of Leeds matchday squad leading into the opening day game of the season against Portsmouth in just under 2 weeks' time. But we did see this last season with Max Wober when he captained Leeds in a behind closed doors friendly against Barnsley and had conversations with Daniel Farke around remaining at the club before he then moved to Borussia Mönchengladbach on loan. At that point, there was a loan release clause that he activated. Right now, that loan release clause isn't active and the player would need to move on a permanent if he was to go. But Gladbach were keen on keeping Max Wober after his initial loan spell last season, but they described Leeds' valuation as expensive and as negotiations with Leeds were described as difficult, and that hasn't appeared to have changed too much. But speaking to Rheinische Post, Virkes said the following: "We are monitoring the market. We cannot meet Leeds United's demands and Leeds is not looking for a loan. That is why the matter is on hold for the time being. But we have always found good solutions, and a player like Max Wober sometimes comes back onto the market at the very end. Of course, there is also late decisions to be made. So if they're still interested and still likely to make a move, the player himself at the end of last season was said to be keen on staying at Gladbach. Maybe he does move, but as I said before, I'm not buying into Max Wober being part of Leeds' plans until the transfer window closes. He has a bit of making up to do with the fan base before we get to that stage. But now that Gladbach are still very much circling the wagons when it comes to Max Wober and having an interest in the player, we'll have to see what happens over the next week or two. We might see an indication of that on Friday or Saturday morning when we see the squad list for the game against Valencia, and if Max Wober's not part of that squad, that might give us some insight. But there are some other links about incoming players that might tie into this, and I'll cover them in a few minutes toward the back end. But moving on to the Crescencio Summerville latest, and according to Fabrizio Romano speaking on Give Me Sport, he claims that West Ham are still very much interested in signing the Leeds United winger Crescencio Summerville this summer. Romano says that West Ham will likely make a move for a winger this summer. It might not necessarily be Summerville, but he is one of the players that they're very much interested in. Leeds' valuation of Crescencio Summerville is 30 to 40 million, and Romano did say in his update that Leeds are not looking to sell the player and that this will need to be a case of them meeting the valuation of the player, something we've heard an awful lot from the Leeds United end of this. But speaking to Give Me Sport, Romano said the following: "We know how West Ham work. They always have several options. They like to negotiate for several players in the same position and then close the deal as soon as they are convinced. But Crescencio Summerville remains one of the players they like in general." It's not going to go away. We said it wasn't, but at the moment it's very much just still there's an interest in there without any actual formal moves for the player. So we'll see what happens there. Another player that has a bit of formal interest apparently from Leeds United is Gabriel Sara, and this story has been a strange one. It was picked up initially by Corriere dello Sport in Italy and then was picked up by a couple of smaller aggregate sites around Europe, but nothing major locally. Team Talk have done a piece on it, but it's Team Talk, so you kind of take it with a pinch of salt and move on from that. But now Give Me Sport have also added their voice to Team Talk's article about the situation. Team Talk and Give Me Sport claim that Daniel Farke is very keen on Gabriel Sara coming into Leeds United from his former side Norwich. However, the valuation of the player is rumoured to be about £17 million, which you can't really see any Championship club paying for the player, especially with the tight restrictions around PSR. Atalanta in Italy are also said to be interested in the player, and they may have the financial means to go and purchase the player should they decide to do that. Sara is an incredibly talented midfielder and would definitely add a huge amount to the Leeds United squad if Leeds were in a position to bring him in. But at the price range right now, it's unlikely that that will happen. However, Give Me Sport say that they reckon Leeds are very confident in getting a deal done for Gabriel Sara, mostly because of the proximity to the club and the fact that the player himself is now keen on a move away from Norwich after hearing about interest in him from other clubs. But it is very much a big signing if Leeds were to do that. It's very much on the Joe Perreault this time last year moves where Leeds bring in a top Championship player. Leeds have been linked to Smodix as well as other players as well. So we'll have to wait and see. For me, I just think 70 million is a huge amount of money and just won't get paid in the Championship unless Leeds can negotiate a lower deal, unless the player himself is pushing for a move away. But he's not coming up to the end of his contract, so it'll be very much in the hands of Norwich whether they decide to let the player go for anything less than that 17 million valuation. But we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see. But it's very much a rumour at this point, and until there's something more concrete on the ground or it's picked up by Graham Smith or Baron Cross or any of the guys there, it's very much still a rumour. Something that is not a rumour is a post that came out yesterday from Harry Gray talking about an injury that he picked up, and in a now deleted Instagram post, Harry Gray has told everyone that he's picked up a substantial injury while on pre-season with the first team and will likely miss at least 6 months of the season. In the post, Gray said that he's saddened by the injury and will come back stronger in 2025, which would suggest that he will be out for about 5 or 6 months. Now, that post has now been deleted since, and it's likely been deleted by recommendations from the club that information should come out through more direct routes rather than the player on his own Instagram. The fact that he is no longer viewed as just an under-18 player and as part of the overall squad, there's kind of rules that he needs to negotiate there. Harry isn't expected to be part of the Leeds United first team squad next season anyway, and this pre-season tour, his involvement in it was very much seen as part of his development and speeding up his development to get him into that position, and he's held his own when he has been in there in the friendlies we've seen so far. But he was likely to go back into the underage setup for this year and with sporadic appearances, but right now it means that will stop any hope of him playing any kind of football for the next 4 or 5 months. It might give him some time to work on the physical aspect of his physique outside of football, but we'll have to wait and see with that one as well. But it's unfortunate that Harry has picked up an injury. Really, it was great to see him this pre-season, but he's 15, he has so much time ahead of him, and we should give the kid as much time as he needs to be ready for first team football. Another young player that Leeds are keen on is coming from news from the Ukraine. According to Totataka Sport Telegram in Ukraine, they say that Leeds are keen on a deal for Ukrainian Wonder Kid Gennady Sinchuk from Ukrainian side Metalist Kharkiv. Sunderland, Middlesbrough and Derby County are also said to be clubs that are interested in the young attacker, but the report does state that Leeds apparently are leading the race to sign the 18-year-old right-sided winger, who will be coming in very much as part of Leeds United under-21 setup initially, before then being pushed into the senior side. This isn't expected to be a deal that's done anytime soon or imminently, and it isn't expected to be done potentially right up until the end of the window, if the deal happens at all and isn't pushed out till longer into the winter window. There is said to be uncertainty about the winter football in the Ukraine right now, and there could be possibilities of the player moving away in order to be part of something moving in to that part of next year. A player that's been linked with Leeds United a couple of times over the course of this summer has been linked again, and this one for me connects back to the Max Wober situation. And according to Tutto Mercato Web, they claim that Leeds United have tabled a £2.5 million bid for Ghent defender Jordan Torunarigha, a player who has been linked with Leeds repeatedly in the past. Apparently, according to Tutto Mercato Web, this bid has been rejected, and Ghent want a bid closer to £4.5 million, which wouldn't be seen as an extortionate amount of money for a centre-back. West Ham, Crystal Palace and Monza are also said to be clubs very much interested in bringing the player in. If Leeds do decide to cash in on Max Wober and do decide to lower the asking price slightly in order to facilitate a move to Gladbach, Jordan Torunarigha will be seen for me as a direct replacement for him, a left-sided defender known for his long-range passing and interceptions and positioning. He's a good player that Leeds could bring in. Whether they bring him in now or whether it's being lined up as something should Wober move on. But again, as I say, we'll probably know a little bit more about this come closer to the weekend. One player that was linked with Leeds a couple of weeks ago, and now some loose reports claiming that Leeds have put a bid in for the player, is Ballo-Toure. And according to reports from Calcio Mercato, they claim that Ballo-Toure has turned down a move to Turkish side Besiktas in favour of a move to the Championship in England. It's claimed that two clubs are interested in the player. One was Leeds, another is an unnamed Championship source. And the reports claim that Ballo-Toure is set to sign for Leeds or another unnamed Championship side. If he was to come into Leeds, he would definitely add some serious competition to the left-back position for Junior Firpo, as well as adding more options for Leeds in a pretty light area at full-back. Leeds have currently got Jayden Bogle, Junior Firpo and Sam Byram, and that's about it right now. Bringing Ballo-Toure in would obviously give Leeds a little bit more depth there. He was on loan at Fulham last year. We've talked about this before, and didn't make a huge impact there, but he has been rated quite highly by Milan, and the fact that Milan brought him in the first place says there's something in that player there. Maybe similarities to Junior Firpo when Barcelona bought him from Real Betis, but a decent fullback, and would definitely add cover and some more options for Leeds in that position, knowing that up until the back end of last season, Junior Firpo has had a couple of injuries each season. He's been at Leeds, and Sam Byram, as we know, has an extensive injury history. And then finally today, some loose reports around Karl Darlo's situation, and some reports yesterday in the media claimed that Hull City may be about to make a move for Leeds United's backup goalkeeper Karl Darlo. Darlo is very much the backup keeper at Leeds United and may be keen on getting some first team minutes next season and not spending the year on the bench at the latter half of his career. Hull tried to sign Darlo this time last year and have a history with the player before, and they may be now apparently ready to make a move to bring him back to Hull City. Leeds themselves would obviously need to bring in a backup goalkeeper at that point, but it's a backup goalkeeper. We know Ilan Meslier, now as a vice captain, will be Leeds' first choice next season. Alex Cairns as third choice will be there, and Leeds may look to bring in a more experienced, older goalkeeper towards the end of his career, just to add some experience to that bench and around the goalkeeping situation as well. But we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll let you know when more happens on that. There's not a huge amount else out there. There's a lot of stuff beginning today. It kind of feels like a lot of stuff is starting to move again. We've had a couple of days of quiet. The club as players are back in Ellen Road and back in Thorpe Arch today. They'll have some light sessions this week before they get into the game against Valencia, and we'll get ready to preview that on Friday evening with stats. So we'll get to that later on in the week. For now, thanks for supporting the channel and watching. I'll be back tomorrow for more Leeds news. I'll see you then. Have a great day. Bye.